A mare I can I see, how thee by decree, free beat by degree, me hung from a tree, you envy of me, while ye be claiming Christianity, white supremacy. We see hypocrisy, democracy, and programming education, mental slavery, fragility be the plea, re-inventing history or history. Peace and blessings. I pray all is doing well, the sound of my voice, as we move forward in space and time. 2022 we're in. What prompted me to do this post, I call this post Heaven, Hell. And how it came about, Spirit just moved me. You're listening to whatever on the radio, watching TV, what have you. And it just prompted me, it hit me something that verses, and forgive me because I don't know at the top of my head the exact verse in the Bible this came from. But in essence, to paraphrase, the devil was asked, how are you going to attack man? And the biblical devil in response was, I'm going to attack him from the front, back, above, and below, and make him think what's forward or what's ahead is actually back and reverse. Just switch everything around to confuse him. And again, like I said, I've heard it before, but this time it just struck me a little different. Now, let me stop and backdrop for a moment for those who haven't heard any of my posts before. I was raised in a military family, Army. My father was in the Army, and we were raised in our household Christian, Baptist to be specific. And going to the churches on the military bases, we're non-denomination. So you got a chance to see an amalgamation or a blending of various ways to worship God. So that's the backstory. So anyway, going into the Bible, and like I said, the verse that I paraphrased, then I just thought, hey, what could this be applied to our concept of God and the devil? In the context, and as you heard my verse as I introed, that's from one of my current songs called Generations, reinventing history or history. On the context, like I said, the umbrella of white supremacy. So with that as the backdrop or in your mind, as I delve just a little deep just to get you to think on how prevalent this could and probably is. As I was raised, most of you probably similar, that when we think of the devil, the biblical devil, it is an entity or being humanoid in shape of color. Brown could be considered a black or brown, so-called brown man. And to just drive it home, we'll put some horns and we're going to put a tail. You got the pitchfork, and where he dwells is a place of fire, hot. Conversely, God, European, old, maybe a bearded white man. We see Jesus, European structure, physical structure. That's how we were raised. But then when you actually look at it in the context, if you know anything about history, anything that dealt with spirituality, anything dealt with the concept of God, unification of God, or the one God concept, came out of the continent of Africa. So if you look, and I just described how hell was described to me and how I saw it depicted within Bible school and what have you, you can subliminally or subconsciously say they're talking about Africa. That's where hell is. That's hot, the equator, so on and so forth. And then opposite, conversely, is Europe. Now, if you again go further and you think about what I just said, where anything, the concept of the universal of God, or just the concept of an essence called God, coming from the continent of Africa, and then as Africa got conquered by the Europeans, then this concept of God traveled through Europe, made its way to the United States, because that's where we are right now, where I am right now. So in doing such, and then you, not, I was going to say sprinkle in, but when you add on the supremacy, white supremacy, and the demonization of the continent of Africa and the people of Africa, then you have to change that concept. You can't show that God is a person of color, is an African. You can't show that if you're going to try to keep with the concept of white, the false construct of white or European being superior. And just to drive it home, because I want to wrap it up, because I didn't want to be long with it, but I wanted just to share the jewels. I can recall, again, my father being in the army, like I said, and being in Germany twice. So my younger sister was born in Germany. We're 19 months apart. And I can recall how my mother used to say how the people would stare at you. Specifically, the older German people would just stare at black people. And then when we went back our second time, because I was an infant when she was born there, and the second time I was the range, what was it? 10, 11, 12. So I can vividly remember as we would go off base, walking into town, what have you. And when I say stare, it's something that I've never experienced since being over there. It wasn't like staring, then you look back at them, and then they look away. They're staring at you, like in amazement that you are the epitome or the physical manifestation of whatever was told to them on the black people. They could come up to you, they would rub your skin. My mom used to tell me when I was a baby, they used to rub my skin to see if the color would come off. They would, and then as over there 10, 11, and 12, my mother was saying that they were taught that at night that black people will grow tails. And you know, I'm like, yeah, whatever. You know, you're a child. You're like, that's odd. But now as I am talking to you and sharing the thoughts that I just shared, it would then connect back to the biblical devil, brown skin, or they made it red, tail, horn, so on and so forth. So again, if we're true to the business of dismantling racism and promoting love, then we must look in all areas, all facets, all corners that we have been miseducated and taken in as foundations to our lives. So I know we may speak on aspects of the Bible, but we actually don't touch these books, in at least from people that I talk with, as it relates to racism. Now, I have friends and others who understand and study the Bible and other religious books, and we can point out historically the racism in the translations and so on. But we also need to keep in mind the imagery, because although we may not subscribe to it on a conscious level, what's more pronounced and more profound in our ways and actions are what's embedded in our subconscious essence, in our being. And subconsciously we're fed that. And although some may push back and say, well, no, I've seen movies and such when they show the quote devil, and it's white people. You know, they may show a white man and so on, but he's generally dressed in something dark. Or they'll say the dark arts. Something dark is in reference to it, and we still get the red, meaning fire, and that. Subconscious, like I said, the continent, Africa, heat, hot, and filled with minerals still. So although it's demonized, it's still raped as it relates to extracting of the precious minerals from the continent. All right. So just wanted to share those jewels. I pray that you stay healthy. I pray and send energy, that you laugh a lot. Get some vitamin D. Yes, it's cold, but when it's sunny outside, you get a chance to go outside and get some air. Do such. Be well, Hotep. Wakanda forever.